Hey everybody, welcome to Blue Ribbon Lounge Podcast.
Welcome back to the lounge, where we're down here underground, where it's nice and cool and out of all this humidity.
Oh, it's so sweet in the lounge today, boy.
Yes.
It's like a cavern, like you're deep in the heart of the earth and
Yeah, it's nice.
feel its cool breeze.
I saw a remodel show, ? It was like somebody talking about a TikTok.
Okay.
Where they were remodeling this house in Florida.
Okay.
And they took all these window coverings down because they had like lattices outside and then like kind of like stickers of trees on the inside.
What?
Yeah, it looked kind of tacky, but they're like, we want to get this natural light inside. And all these people from Florida were like, I would have gladly like gave my right arm to have a cavernous spot to go where it's nice and cold and you don't have to run the AC so much.
Oh, yeah.
But they're like, let's just open up and let the sun beat down inside the house.
Yeah, I didn't even consider that maybe those people did that for a reason.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, because they were like, did they even think of why that stuff was there, or were they just like, because they were just trying to flip the house, so they're like neutral colors and
oh yeah, I imagine they opened up the window and just like a big cloud of mosquitoes rolled in.
it just rolls in. Yeah, but that was also a thing because it was a 70s house that had a lot of personality, and then they just went and like ripped it up to make it neutral.
Oh, so gross.
And a lot of people were saying like, okay, that house could have fit somebody, and they could have been like, I can see myself in here, maybe I'll update the cabinets, but it's got quirkiness to it, and I like this, I like that. But when you're just flipping a house, you just go and then make it like a neutral bar, so it's more able to get flipped real quick.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's like you take all the charm out of something, and I understand that maybe so somebody else can come in and add their own charm to it. But man, going into houses with live, laugh, love, and just like
generic.
I understand if you rent and you got to have white walls or something, but
yeah,
like so many of the walls in my house are painted. So
yeah, and down here is a lot of character.
Yeah, a lot of stuff on the wall. I like a lot of stuff on the walls.
Well, I mean, like even your paneling, and then like how you have your bushes and stuff.
Yeah, and so me and my wife have been on this journey for the past few years, even about becoming a minimalist. You wouldn't understand that looking at my house, but I think the concept that we are trying to learn to live by. So when we still, hit some bumps here and there, but we're trying to get it to where everything in our house is awesome and on display.
Yeah.
So, like we're trying not to have, a full closet full of trash, even though I just opened the curtain and showed Dave all my trash in the closet. But yeah, everything having an intention and a place and being really cool.
Yeah, I think it's not feng shui, but it's like that, where you go through your stuff.
It's funky shui.
Funky shui, and you hold it up and you're like, I don't know, you have like a flower pot that you haven't put a flower in for 2 years, and you look at it and you're like, does this do anything for me? Am I really going to use this? If not, does it mean anything to me?
Yeah.
If not, you'd get rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and we, that mindset of like that, what do they call that? Like a lacking mindset or something, like, oh my god, I can't get rid of this, it'll never come back to me, if I get rid of this, I'll never be able to have it again, or I'll never be able to get something like it again. That I think hurts so many people.
Yeah, it's kind of like the dad syndrome.
Oh, gotta save every screw.
Yeah, because one day you might be like, oh, this bed's a little loose, so too bad we don't have a 2-inch screw. And you're like, oh, wait. And you got to run to your drawer and dig through it and be like, I knew I saved this for a reason.
I'm certainly like that, though.
Yeah.
But that's why it's a journey, Yeah. The journey is more fun than getting there.
Exactly.
How have you been, Dave? I heard you've been going to school again. Is that true?
Yeah, but it's like through work.
Yeah, is it pretty easy at least?
Just started.
Oh, okay. How long do you got to do it for?
It's 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
But it's like 4 8-week classes.
Four 8-week classes?
Yes.
Damn, dog.
And it's like, oh, you can
That's a year.
Yeah. They're like, you can work ahead and get it done first. I'm like, or get done early. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So then I can start the next class after I finish this one if I do it in like 2 weeks. And they're like, well, no, you have to wait till the end of the 8 weeks to start the next class. I'm like, well, I'm not really getting it done early then.
Yeah.
You just give me a break and then making me not want to do more school.
Yeah, it'll be easy to not want to do it after that.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's just for work.
Yeah.
But it's through a school, but yet I don't know if we get actual college credits for it. So I'm like, what am I gonna have to show for this after a year? But it's also like, well, I should just do it anyway so I can get that extra 50 cents or whatever.
Oof. You're gonna get me on a tangent, Dave. I'm sorry I brought it up.
No, that's all right.
We and the wife just got back from a wedding in Indianapolis. It was a great wedding, dude. It was a noontime wedding.
Noon?
Yeah, so then they had brunch afterwards, which was a great move. And then we had all night to do stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we went to a couple of cool shops. We went to this tiki bar, the Inferno Room. Went and done duck bowling.
Duck bowling.
Yes, it's like the pins are a little bit smaller. The ball is like fits in your hand. And you get 3 rolls of the ball.
Oh, each frame?
Yes.
Okay.
The wife smoked me at it. The place we went to, I swear, had not been updated. Like, it was probably a thing in the 30s.
Yeah.
This place probably closed in the 50s. Nobody did anything with this building for, however long.
Yeah.
And then they just
years.
Yeah, and then like maybe the guy died and some kid walks in and is just like, open it up. And like all the balls were made out of like asbestos. They had like cracks in them and chips taken out, and all the lanes were warped. But it certainly was cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a good time. I went and saw a burlesque show that was really good. It was all movie themed. So they did like, somebody did The Labyrinth, Army of Darkness, Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
And there was like, she danced to this like techno version of Tequila.
Okay.
And
like when he's on the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny. The techno version of Tequila was too much. But it was a really good show. So yeah, having a lot of fun lately.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I didn't get super into this, but I felt like there were a lot of, well, we were just talking kind of about mental health before we started the episode, and I felt like I learned a lot about my brain from this episode.
From this topic?
Yeah, from this topic.
Video games?
Yeah.
How they get inside your head and you just like
denim. Yeah, the kind of the first thing I saw for it was in 1976. This company Exidy released Death Race.
Oh, is that what? Yeah, but that was the first violent video game.
Yeah, it was also seemed like it was some of the first. 1976 would have been before Pac-Man.
Yeah, but Space War !
Okay,
was the first quote unquote video game in 1947.
Oh yes, and it was like on a round looking screen. Back when like video games, back when like people didn't own computers and shit.
Yeah, and one of those green.
Yeah,
there's not LED. It's
like when they shoot the photons at the screen.
Yeah, like a radar screen looking kind of thing. Yeah, and that was just a missile simulator, where I guess you're just like shooting a missile at dots before they hit the ground.
That sounds cool.
And then the first game made for fun was Tennis for Two in 1958. Because
did that turn into a different game?
It might have, but any game before that was made for either like research purposes to see like what the capability of the computer can do, or like commercial promotion. Like if you buy the Commodore 6014 or whatever, it comes with Snake.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And then the first ever smash hit video game was in 1975. Can you guess what it is?
Pong?
Yeah.
I was like, is that not Tennis for Two?
No, Tennis for Two. Because I thought that would be like Pong, but it's more like you have a dot and then you can twist which direction you want to hit it and then try to get the other person to like, or like air hockey.
Oh, okay.
Kind of. Where you like, but it like stops on your paddle and then you kind of like direct it and shoot it off.
Oh, okay.
To kind of confuse the other player. Yeah. But then, yeah, what you said, 1976.
76.
So a year after Pong was Death Race.
Death Race, yeah, and it was like it was a combination wheel and pedal controller, and it seemed like you just drove around trying to run people over. And it was like the first violent video game. So there was, pretty shortly after it coming out, was a kind of a societal outcry to ban the game, worrying about what it would do to the children. Think of the children.
Well, because that game, if you ever like look it up, or if you happen to have an Atari, there's little people running around, and when you hit them, it goes meh, meh. So it sounds like they're screaming, and then little gravestones pop up.
Yeah.
So I guess a lot of parents then, when they hear like, what's that screaming? And then they see all these gravestones all over the screen. They're like, that's the devil.
I thought you were just playing Burger Time.
Yeah. Joust.
And so I don't know exactly what happened, if they stopped making that or what, but later there was again another outcry of, society trying to take down video games, fueled by the 1992 release of Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat! I wonder if back in 75, the video game thing got kind of lumped in with like the whole Satanic Panic. Or was that later that happened? Like,
I thought the Satanic Panic was
like in the 80s?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember from the episode. If you're listening to this, go listen to that episode too.
Yeah, D&D's Satanic Panic.
Yeah. But I believe that was earlier, because didn't that, what's his name? The guy from Big. Tom Hanks. When that movie came out in like the early 90s, maybe the 80s.
I think it was the 80s.
Yeah. But this was essentially the same thing. Just people who didn't know what they were talking about saw some new entertainment that they thought was gonna bring out the devil in people.
Yeah, corrupt the children.
Yeah. Because back in their day, you just hit a can with a stick.
Yeah, and that wasn't aggressive at all.
Yeah. I know a kid that broke his hand from kick the can.
Oh, jeez.
It's crazy. But in 1994, the Interactive Digital Software Association, now called... So there was this big outcry, and, there's probably like Moms Against Mortal Kombat or something. I don't know.
Yeah, or like Tipper Gore or somebody.
Yeah. So the government asked the video game creators, and in 1994, the Interactive Digital Software Association, now called the Entertainment Software Association, founded the Entertainment Software Rating Board, the ESRB.
Yeah, that's the rating that you see now on the back of video games.
Yeah,
where it's like
E for everyone.
Or T for teen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they created the rating system and started rating games. Which I think it's pretty reasonable to ask both, are these games for everyone?
Right.
Or are they hurting kids? Because there are some games... I played a game called Manhunt.
Yeah.
And you were like an escaped prisoner, and all you really did was try to kill people.
Yeah, a lot of games are like that. Especially like a lot of first-person shooters and stuff like that.
Yeah, at least generally, first-person shooters, you're America, which would be portrayed as the good guys.
Or, yeah, like the Soldier of Fortune or something.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into war on this episode, but I will, Dave. But, yeah, for an American audience, you would want your kids to believe that they are American soldiers fighting the government's war.
But they did a study, and...
A study, you say?
Yeah, because I went more towards the...
in the name of science.
In a different direction, but I do have a little blurb that said that they did a study, and they did one back in the day, but they did one not too long ago where they had kids play 3 different types of Minecraft,
Mm-hmm.
where one was just a go build stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And one was you have a sword, and then there's the creepers that you can fight. And then one you had a gun and creepers. And then somehow they gave him a gun.
they like put him in a room, a white room with only a gun in it.
It's what it seemed like. Yeah, but they put him in a room where they could maybe find a gun. Mm-hmm. And they said that the two people that played the more aggressive Minecraft were more likely to pick it up or like touch it or like squeeze the trigger to see what was going on.
Yeah, and I mean, I can understand that to a point where, so I guess maybe I should preface a lot of this with like, yeah, I looked some stuff up. I'm probably not going to be referencing any, case numbers or
nothing like that.
And a lot of this is going to be my opinion, so sorry if you don't want to hear.
Well, that's what they're here for. Yeah. They're here to listen to our opinion, and we have them because they're a hostage audience.
Don't you dare take those headphones off.
No, don't change it. Joe Rogan's just talking about horse tranquilizers anyway.
But yeah, in my opinion, if you play a game with a gun, it's gonna be in your brain. Yeah. You're gonna know a little bit more about that tool.
Yeah, and the thing is, when they talked about the study, they didn't put all the parameters out there because maybe they gave the kids choices. Like, hey, we got these 3 games. You want to play one with a gun, a knife, or just build stuff? And if they gave the kids choices, the kids that just wanted to build stuff, probably not the kind of kids that play cops and robbers.
Yeah. And well, that was another thing. Like, I feel like this episode is going to be all over the place because that's kind of how my notes are. But
we'll just let's riff.
It's not like kids haven't been playing with toy guns for years.
Yeah,
I mean, for a long time, even before movies, kids were playing cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians.
Yeah, Nazis and Allies.
Yeah, and Marines or whatever, Army Man, and all of those are played with guns.
Yeah, because I remember they did a study one time where they just gave boys and girls neutral toys, and the girls would always find something and then make it a baby, or like dress stuff up, and then the boys would always find like a broom or Legos, and then they would become a gun.
Yeah, and a lot of that I believe, and we'll go back to this part here in a little while too, is like a nature versus nurture type thing. Like, girls are girls, and they see their mom that looks like them,
right?
And so they emulate it. And boys are boys, and they see their dad, and the dad looks like them, and so they try to emulate it. And I think that's, and for sure, there's gray areas of kids that have different parents and stuff like that. But I think in a classic household, the kids just kind of gravitate towards which parent is of the same sex.
Yeah.
And I think that's just whether I guess it be societal or genealogical.
Genealogical.
Yeah, genealogical. Yeah. I can't say, but I think that is a fairly understandable outcome for raising kids.
Yeah, and like you were saying, that might be like a percentage, but there's also a percentage of like tomboys, and mama's boys, and tom boy.
I don't know which one it's
the one where the girls play the baseball and fix cars with the dad, and then there's ones where the boy likes to bake, and hang out with grandma,
and those girls that lean towards more masculine activities, they may pick up the broom and it may become a gun.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
they'll play Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. So I think there is, and man, if you ever shot a gun, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah, it can be.
I mean, I've always thought it was pretty cool, but it can also be scary sometimes too, depending on the situation.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to have people around me who knew how to do it.
Yeah.
Were you trained in the military? Obviously you were trained in the military, but had you shot a gun before that?
Yeah, my stepdad was a big hunter.
Oh, okay.
So we always had guns.
Yeah.
And let's not go in the gun debate, but he always taught us to respect them, and this is what it is, and this is the rules with the gun. And because growing up, he always had a shotgun next to the front door because he'd wake up early to go duck hunting, so it was right there, and you can't leave it in the cold truck, all night. And we just knew as kids, like, don't touch that.
Yeah.
Like, that's something you don't touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, like, yeah, the consequences are not worth
massive.
it. Yeah. But with those studies, there were other studies done, and it said, like, after, like, getting kids, that was another study they did, is they had kids play violent or more aggressive video games, and then would watch them in, like, a park setting, and then see how aggressive they were towards the other kids. And they did notice that there was, as compared to the kids that just played, like, Monopoly or Mario or something, they weren't as aggressive on the playground. But there was no necessarily, like, violence. They weren't, like, going in there and, like, elbow checking a kid. But they might be a little rougher playing soccer, or a little more aggressive, like getting the football,
Yeah.
But they weren't, like, just going out there and bullying kids and punching them in the face.
Yeah, and a lot of what the studies, it sounds like both of us had seen, it's hard to measure violence. Unlike that study you had just talked about where they, like, left a gun out.
Yeah, which
to see
was
if the
an
kid...
odd study to begin with.
Yeah, you can't, like, put two kids in a room with a knife after they just watch Mortal Kombat and see if one of them stabs the other one.
Right.
You can't do that.
No, that's not moral.
But so yeah, with kind of the limitations around research, I felt like they are a little bit pigeonholed as to what they can conclude. But from all of my research here, they didn't come up with anything that definitively found that kids were more violent, more aggression.
There was more aggression, but not necessarily more violence.
Yeah, and it didn't even seem like they concluded a massive amount.
Yeah.
That it was like a very, very neutral amount.
Yeah, and then there's also a little caveat that if you compare that to watching your favorite sports team and say they're losing,
yeah,
and you're really into the game, you've seen people get aggressive.
Yeah.
How many YouTube videos have you seen of people fighting in the stands and pushing people down the stairs?
Yeah, and even like, and that's at a professional level, even dads at a youth sport game. You always hear about dads getting kicked out.
Yeah, or fighting another dad on the other team.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it seems like, from what because they have esports now, and you've never been, like, seen a thing that's like huge brawl at the esports session.
Although that'd be cool.
That would be cool. Like, you suck,
although
ninja. No, I don't. They start fighting.
I did see a video of a guy who, like, must have lost some game, and he just, like, takes the keyboard and smashes it on the desk.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that before. But you have to watch out for some of those because they could also be doing characters. Because I watch a bunch of, like, Where Are They Now? Kind of like not stars from early internet or, like, viral videos from early internet. And it'll be like, well, whatever happened to that person, or what's the backstory? And it'll be like, oh, well, this German kid actually got a webcam and started doing this character where he would freak out. And then the one that went viral is of him smashing the keyboard, but people in the States never saw the previous one, so they just think it's some kid spazzing because he lost World of Warcraft.
I've seen a kid like that. Was he, like, blonde haired and
yeah, I think so,
and thin, and, like, he was always, like, getting real upset.
Yeah. So,
I would love for that to have been a character, because anybody who lives like that is just like, oh, I feel for you.
High blood pressure.
And even a lot of these early studies in 2015, the American Psychological Association assembled a task force. Sounds real cool.
Yeah.
Of 10 experts chosen specifically for their areas of expertise and their lack of knowledge of video game research. And they reviewed a bunch of different studies about video games and their overall conclusion. Mark Applebaum was one of these in the task force. He was a professor at the Department of Psychology at UC San Diego. And this task force inevitably concluded, before I finish this, it did seem like a lot of groups went into these studies with either a lot of funding from the government and outside sources almost to prove that video games were bad.
Yeah.
Or, not a lot of resources and trying not to conclude anything.
Right.
But they found that games did have some impact on behavioral aggression, but they couldn't conclude that there was violence.
Yeah, that seemed to be the big thing that I kept seeing too.
Yeah, and there was they did not conclude that that video games had a direct correlation with violence or committing crimes. This is what specifically he said.
Yeah. That's what I have on my notes here, yeah. What I looked up was more of the addictive nature.
I saw some of that too.
Of video games, because a lot of the people were saying, and I'm sure it's true, but what I know from, because I used to want to be a video game person, and when it comes to the developers and the guys who are programming it themselves, they're just doing the newest technology, the newest innovations and stuff. But some theory is also that they know that they're getting you hooked, and that might be the microtransactions and the little you play a nut. That actually feels more like Candy Crush type shit.
I was gonna say that. I think people, video game designers, I think they're all about storytelling and the art behind it.
Yeah.
And then it's the business people and these companies that are trying to get you, I feel hooked on Candy Crush type games.
Yeah, the mobile games I think are more trying to be more addictive.
Yeah, and it's just a way to keep you playing, keep ads in front of your face to make more money.
And I'm sure even for a AAA game, there is probably an executive that's you have to hit these bullet points by the first hour. You got to give them a really cool weapon. By the third hour, you have to have a cliffhanger. By the last hour, you need to have them grind because the boss is too big or something.
Yeah, and part of that I think is part of storytelling. I listen to a lot of high fantasy, and within the first quarter to half of the book, they're getting a cool new weapon.
Yeah.
And then that is the key to finishing the boss at the end type thing.
Right. Or brings the adventure in.
Yeah, what's that old storytelling thing where it's if a gun is brought into the scene in the first act?
Chekhov's gun.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think those staples of storytelling do hit with video games as well.
Yeah, I just watched Terrifier 2.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Was it good?
It's good. It's weird.
Okay.
There's a lot of plot, but not a lot of explanation.
Okay.
But
that sounds like Terrifier 1 too.
Yeah.
Also.
But in the beginning, I'm not really giving too much away, but there's this sword that they keep showing. I'm that's got to be something for later. Because they just had 3 quick cuts to it. It's yep, they show the sword, then later on it has to do something with something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, dopamine is what the hits they're going for. Same social media gives you when you hear the little ding on your phone, or you see the little red number saying you got some likes or some comments on your Instagram or whatever, hearts or however any of that shit works. And because it hits the pleasure sense, the satisfaction, and a motivation, gives you a bump on all those. But yet it also plays a role in memory, mood, sleep, learning, concentration, and movement. So it plays a lot. Maybe that's why when you try to get off social media, or if you watch your phone too late into the night, you can't sleep as well because maybe you depleted a lot of dopamine by being on your phone. But in May 25th, 2019, the World Health Organization voted to include gaming disorder as a behavioral addiction.
And that did line up with a lot of things I heard, in that it acts like a controlled substance.
Yeah.
Because like booze will give you that dopamine hit. Drugs will give you that dopamine hit.
Cocaine or something.
Yeah. So it's just like everything else in that it can be abused.
Yeah. But I mean, this wasn't like a but though, but I also saw that in 2012, caffeine addiction, they also classified as a clinical disorder, which I've never seen. I mean, I know people that like to get coffee, but I've never seen anybody like be super addicted to coffee.
Yeah. I feel like I could be that. I drink like a pot a day.
Yeah, but I do know people that like try to quit caffeine and they get headaches and shit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which is the book used by the psychiatric community in the United States, they lean on it a lot more, I guess. Mm-hmm. But they listed it as a condition called internet gaming disorder, but as like a condition for further study and not necessarily a diagnosis. So if someone comes in and you're like giving them therapy or whatever, you can't be like, oh, this is your problem, is this internet gaming disorder. They're like, you have that, but what's the bigger root for it? What's the bigger problem? Yeah. That's kind of what like I saw a lot, because I would see these little mini documentaries and they'd be like video game addiction, and they'd show like some videos of like parents unplugging a thing and then the kid freaking out.
I saw
like,
those too.
But at the same time, that works with any toy.
Yeah, they let it up by like, well, if you take your kids' Legos and books away from them, they won't act like this. And it's like, I don't know.
I mean, if you just walked into the room, but if they're in the middle of building the big Harry Potter castle and they have like just the roof to do and you come in and push it over, they'd probably act the same way.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And to me, I saw those too, and I just felt like it was, because they made it sound like it was some sort of social media trend.
Yeah.
And one, like I think you're hurting these kids by like causing them that trauma.
Yeah.
And also, if they can't get off, I think it was a traumatic thing to do to them.
Right.
Which is why they acted like that.
Like you said, it did seem like a trend because they were filming to begin with, and then they were just filming the kid's reaction.
Yeah.
It wasn't like one of those where the dad comes in and it's like, I told you to get off here 20 minutes ago, you're done. Yeah. They would just go and unplug it, like, and then record to see how their kid would freak out.
Yeah. I think that's pretty traumatic for a kid. But also, how between these being kids and their prefrontal cortex isn't developed, and that's where they learn how to handle themselves
in a situation like that.
Yeah. So these kids are just as likely to, if they see a cookie on the counter, to just go eat it because they have no control. And also, why aren't you raising your kids better?
Yeah.
You know? Like,
right. Because
my kid had a handful of tantrums, but you know, if he had a tantrum, it got dealt with.
Yeah, and also if your kids, if video games are an issue, you gotta
put boundaries up,
nip it in the bud. Yeah, or just take the games away from them.
Yeah,
but
and going back to it, if you had boundaries like, hey, you're only allowed to play video games for an hour a day, and they're on there for 30 minutes, and you turn it off, I would be pissed too. You know, they were literally setting these children up to
fail.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it's not one of those things where they go in and like, all right, I told him a half hour ago to get off the video game, but he's still on it. Now let's see what happens. No, they're just like, haha, let's turn this off.
Yeah, and I saw a couple of kids from England. It was like British 60 Minutes or something. And there were two kids. One kid hadn't gone to school for 2 years.
Yeah.
And they play video games for like 12 hours a day. His little brothers go to school, but he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
And now they made it sound like there was a traumatic experience in both of their lives, and they got addicted to video games.
Yeah.
And one of the moms was saying, you know, he's as big as me now. and if I take video games away from him, he'll hit me and bite me, and
those temper tantrums that I can't control.
Yeah, and it's like your 12 to 14-year-old should not be throwing temper tantrums.
Yeah,
that you should have reasoned with them for long enough.
Right, and that's another one where it's like, especially with those two, I saw those two, and it was like a symptom of a bigger picture.
Yeah,
because the first kid, his parents were going through a divorce, so then while they're probably yelling at each other and figuring out where to live, he's probably playing video games.
Yeah, and probably ignoring him.
Yeah, and so he's being quiet. He's not in the way. Grown-ups got shit to figure out. And then that's also his place to go. Your parents start yelling. You put your headphones on. You start playing Fortnite. You can just be in a different world. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't think that's necessarily addiction. It's probably not a good coping mechanism.
Yeah.
That it becomes a thing you do all the time.
Yeah, and guess what? In the 80s and 90s, we would have just started smoking pot. You know? We would have just started sneaking drinks.
Yeah, or something, then you end up being an addict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're just addicts with a different addiction.
Yeah, because I think the other kid, like his mom had cancer.
Yeah.
And so he spent a lot of time playing video games because his mom's in the hospital and his dad's dealing with that. It's another thing where you're like, it's like the parents that they go to restaurants. Mm-hmm. And they got like 4 kids with them, and they got their adult friends, and they just give their kids tablets and be like, shh.
Yeah.
And then they wonder why kids have all this screen time and can't interact socially. It's like, well, you're the one that can reinforce that.
Yeah, and it's definitely a balance. Like, I think video games are good in a certain way, and my kid has always been, this is my experience, my kid has always been very introverted, which is hard for me to accept because I can be so outroverted, extroverted,
outgoing,
but he is so content just sitting in his room and playing with toys all by himself, and that was like my worry for him for like 3 years. Boy, he doesn't have a lot of friends. Boy, he's not going out and doing stuff. Now he's on the internet. On Discord, talking to his friends, playing video games. Now I'm like, oh, he's always talking to his friends on Discord, and he's always playing video games. And I have to recognize that within myself that, well, one, my kid's pretty well-rounded. He plays sports, goes to school, gets good grades. But if an introverted kid, is unable, for lack of a better term, because I don't understand that kind of thing very much, but it sounds to me like introverted people are unable to go out and do things as much as extroverted people. He's talking to friends, and he's making friends and talking to people and socializing on his terms.
Right, and that's a lot of the things too that I saw that these parents were like, oh, he's isolated, he's this and that. Like, he's playing Call of Duty. His friends are probably playing Call of Duty too.
Yeah.
He's not just out there soloing it. Usually they have groups. And like, especially Fortnite and stuff, you have clans and all this. And as far as I know.
Yeah.
Because I know people at work, like Alejo, and people will just be like, hey, we're going to jump on at 5 o'clock. You're going to, oh, yeah. And I'm like, you guys are nerds. But they get to hang out without physically hanging out.
Yeah. And I mean, I did that a lot too. We just didn't have the tools, and with new tools comes learning how to navigate that. Like, my kid will have his headphones on, and I'll fall down the stairs and roll right up to his chair. He will never notice me, and I'll listen to his talking sometimes, and we have conversations about what's appropriate and the kind of thing. And arguably, in this situation, I have more ability to know what people are saying to him, as opposed to, behind the school after they get out or something, the things that me and my friends said to each other were wild.
Yeah, and now, because if that was all, like archived somewhere that my parents can scroll through, they'd be like, what the hell are you talking about?
And yeah, a lot of this is, I heard the term just recently before you came over, but like this societal outcry to blame something. It's like, you guys were drinking at 18 legally, and probably younger than that. Like, and now all of a sudden you're so quick to turn the judgment on just a new technology.
Yeah. And it seemed like, yeah, and if your kid does have that kind of addiction or that kind of thing where they're so unruly when you unplug their game, there's obviously something else going on that you have to figure out.
Yeah.
And, because there was I don't know if it was a study, but an NPR article that I read that said, like, usually kids with, like, ADD or autism will end up having problems with, like, video games.
Mm-hmm.
And that kids with depression and anxiety are more social media, like, heavy. Mm. And that's also one of those things where it's like, it might be a failing of the parents.
Yeah.
To get them to socialize or to, like, talk with them or to, like, take them to the park. Because if you have a kid that's tough to manage and you don't want to put in work, it's really easy just to let them do whatever.
Yeah.
Because it'd be the same thing if I have to eat 12 Hershey bars a day. If I don't have exactly 12, I'm going to freak out.
Yeah.
And then they have an eating disorder. And especially with screens and stuff, it's very similar to an eating disorder because nowadays you have to have computers for work. Mm-hmm. You probably have to have a cell phone to communicate with everybody else in the world. Mm-hmm. And so then you have technology, but then you also might have a problem with technology. It's kind of like having an eating disorder where, like, you still have to eat, but you can't do it either abundantly or throw it up after you eat it.
Yeah.
Like, you have to figure out how to manage.
All a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were certain things that I did see that video games helped you with, in that, like, if I can find it on here, hand-eye coordination, decision-making.
Yeah. Problem solving,
things like that. I mean, what was that game? Myst?
Yeah.
Was one of the first really big computer games.
Yeah.
That game was, one, hard. And two, yeah, it worked your brain so much to figure it out. And I did it a couple of years ago for Father's Day. I bought it off the internet, and me and my family did it.
Yeah.
And boy, it was a hoot. And we had to write stuff down. There was 3 of us. We still had to write stuff down to remember patterns and things like that.
Did you get through it?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. But yeah, things are good in moderation. I had even seen where, and I don't know if your generation had this.
What are you trying to say, Matt?
I don't know what you had in school for computers and stuff, but I had, like, a math game where you were a space alien and you had to go around solving math problems to fix your ship.
We had one.
New Podcat.
Is that a new cat?
Not a new cat, but she's down here for some reason. I don't know why.
I think it was called, like, Math Man. Or it's like Pac-Man, but it would be like, eat only integers of 8. And then you have to figure out what number is an integer of 8.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even know. I hate this game. Where's Oregon Trail?
That was a fire game. History. Also, like you were saying, I do believe that society is failing us in that if you want a night out, you have to bring your kids because you can't afford... you're working all day. You can't afford the childcare. Yeah, you have to be able to find some time for yourself. And there are things like, I hear a lot of good things about Bluey. I don't know.
Yeah.
Shows like Blue's Clues or Barney or something.
Right.
Where it's like entertainment, but there's value in it. This 5210 is a game that teaches children how to eat healthy and be active. Is just something I saw, and I understand the accessibility of buying a $200-300 iPad as a babysitter, because that is something that is becoming a hard fact in this world.
Yeah.
But you can control what's on there, and what you just have to take control in a different way to be able to observe what they're intaking. You know? And you go out to eat. They don't get to play with it in the car. They have to listen to the radio or talk.
Right.
And then you're at the restaurant for an hour. You get an hour of screen time. Make sure you eat all your vegetables.
Yeah. But that's also like it depends on the situation. If you're going for a family meal, maybe just be like, how was your day? Do you have homework?
Yeah, I guess I'm going into the exact situation to where you would need it to be a babysitter.
Oh, like
certainly if it's you, your partner, and your 2 children, you would want to be interactive.
Yeah, or even if you're like, I got to go change the oil in the car, or I got to mow the lawn. Hey, why don't you put on a movie, or why don't you play on your tablet or whatever? So then you know that they're not going to be just like sneaking around the house, turning the stove on.
Yeah, finding all your guns.
Finding all your guns. Mostly knives.
Yeah.
But, so then you know, yeah, it's kind of like a babysitter, but it's also like times like that.
Yeah.
But just they come home from school till bedtime.
Yeah. I think where people get in trouble is when they don't have the boundaries around it.
Right.
And you know, you have to express those boundaries. A kid will understand, like, if you do it 10 days in a row, like, you get 1 hour. It's while I'm mowing. When I am done, you're off of it.
Yeah.
They will learn that.
Right.
And that's what they're children. They have to learn.
Right. Or, like, make it a reward. Like, hey, if you clean your room, you can do the tablet until bedtime or whatever. Or, like, you get an hour for each chore, or however you want to use it as a reward system.
Yeah. Yeah, just like marijuana, it's good in moderation.
Yeah. China, after
China,
the lockdown in 2001, they started to restrict minors to only 1 hour a day, Monday, Saturday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So they'd only get 3 hours a week and only 1 hour a day over the weekend. Is how it would work.
That's crazy. They're going to be passing us.
Yeah, and
fast.
they said that when they implemented that, the number of youth gamers worldwide dropped from 122 million to 82 million.
Damn.
So at least like 40 million people dropped. And it said the little study they did was like, even though they had 3 hours, most of the kids played less than that because they were already figuring out things to do and, you know, had other hobbies. So when they did have the time, they were like, I could take it or leave it kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there's also the opposite side where there might be a margin of error because either their parents might let them use their account to play the game, or they can buy like a cracked game, I guess, where it doesn't make you put in your age or like do a face scan or whatever.
That's crazy.
So then you can just play as much as you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the other physical effects I had seen going along with the addictive tendencies is, so yes, your video games give you instant and kind of excessive dopamine if you're playing them for too long. And when your body is creating dopamine, from what I had seen, it sounds like it does not create serotonin. So when you play excessive amounts of video games, you get what's called you get an excess of dopamine, insufficient serotonin, what's called a dopaminergic dependence, along with a serotoninergic aversion. And what serotonin is, what I heard was that's what builds your self-confidence.
Yeah.
Was like completing tasks gives you serotonin.
Yeah.
Whether it was difficult or hard. We were talking about making lists earlier.
Right.
Off air. But so when you're playing video games, you're getting all of the quick hits and none of the fulfilling hits.
Yeah, like the actual happiness.
Yes.
You're just getting the high.
Yes. And the serotonin gives you self-esteem. So when you break away from the video game, go out into the real world to get a job or to hang out with friends, you're easily like stricken with anxiety and panics and fears, and those come from the amygdala, which is the survival center. And then along with the amygdala, it's also like an area in your brain that you learn from. So while you're being afraid of all of these social interactions because you're not confident, you're not learning how to become confident.
Right.
You're not learning from those areas. And so it's just like a repetitive cycle.
Yeah.
Until you're able to, either see it yourself or have somebody break you out of it to try to, and that seems like the cycle of addiction.
Yeah, because it's like synopsis, where if you're getting the dopamine hit, your dopamine receptors and the synapses in your brain that are connected to that are more connected. So you're more hardwired to want that dopamine hit, or the serotonin, which is probably like the difference between like getting a full night's rest and being all energized in the morning, or just hitting a cup of coffee to get that energy. So instead of getting the nice serotonin that's going to give you the smooth happiness, because those connectors aren't connected, so then when you try, it might give you anxiety and it might not work as well, or you're kind of like not getting the full effect. But the more you do it, the more those receptors will get stronger, and the more the dopamine ones will like reside a little bit, or like rein back. And so then, like we were talking earlier, like just repetitiveness helps to build that.
Yeah, and taking little wins and things like that.
Yeah, and that's also kind of part of addiction.
Yep. Because
you're trading one thing for another.
For the instant gratification.
Yeah. And where you want that mood lifter, not the instant gratification. But you're addicted to the instant gratification.
Yes.
So when you don't have it, you feel shaky and paranoid because you haven't got those other things to level you out. Which is why doctors would just be like, here's a prescription. I don't know.
SSRI.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a time and place for this. I don't know.
I mean, I've heard it's helped some people.
Yeah.
To like ease you into being normal.
Yeah.
But it's also like
a kicking off point.
Yeah. But that's also like taking Ozempic and not working out.
Yeah.
Well, because once you stop Ozempic, you're just going to get fat again.
Yeah.
So the SSRIs, you still have to do the work to get yourself up to the level where you can wean yourself off and then have it naturally.
Yeah. And, working out and doing things is hard.
Yeah. Do you want to hear some examples of video games that have killed people?
Yes, I would love this, Dave.
Okay, unless you had something else.
No.
About the psychology of it?
No, I don't.
Okay. There were these two men in China. I'm just going to call them Guy 1 and Guy 2. But they were...
I was going to go a little racist, but...
Okay.
Just do Guy 1 and Guy 2.
But they played this game called Legends of Mir 3.
I've heard of it.
I guess it's a game where you go around and whack...
M-Y-R?
M-I-R.
M-I-R.
Mir. Yeah. But you like hit people with big swords.
Tight.
But these two friends, I don't know if, because I've heard it different ways. Like the one friend got this rare sword, and I've heard it where they were like together on a raid, and the one friend got the rare sword, and they decided, he's like, well, we can share it. So he let his other friend have it, and this is an in-game sword. And his friend had it for a while, but then sold it.
Oh, you hate to see it.
But he got 170 real life dollars because somebody bought.
That's a thing. That's a thing.
Yeah, he bought the thing in the game because it was called like the Dragon Saber.
Ooh.
And so then Guy 1 was super pissed because he didn't even get to use his sword yet that he got. So then he went to the police, and the police were like, it's an imaginary sword.
The police logged onto their Mir accounts.
yeah. So they were like, they didn't really follow up on it. They're like, there's nothing we can really do about this. So then Guy 1 went to Guy 2's house and started confronting him about it. And Guy 2 was like, okay, well, here, I'll give you the money that I got for the sword. And Guy 1 wasn't having it, and then stabbed the other dude in the heart. IRL.
Damn.
Yeah.
In the heart, like specifically in the heart?
Yeah. Like,
damn.
Yeah. And then calmed down a little bit and then just went back to the police station and turned himself in.
I mean, at least he turned himself in. There wasn't a big manhunt or anything.
Yeah. Or there was a Daniel Patrick in 2007. He was the son of a preacher man, and he went skiing and like broke his leg, and then ended up getting a horrible infection. So he was stuck at home for a while.
Okay.
He was like bedridden, and he'd played Halo 3 at his friend's house, and so then he was able to get out and went and bought it in secret because his parents obviously didn't want him to play violent video games. And so when his mom saw him playing the game, she told the dad. The dad took the disc and put it in his safe where he keeps his guns. And being a preacher or a reverend, he just had the key out because he's like, honor system. Like, nobody
Trusting God.
It's in the safe. They know not to go in the safe.
Jesus, take the keys.
Yeah. But the kid got the key, went to the safe, got his video game, found the gun, walked into the living room and was like, hey, can you guys close your eyes? I have a surprise for you. And shot his dad in the head, shot his mom like 4 times, and then put the gun in his dad's hand. But his dad didn't die.
Oh.
So his dad was like, ugh. And like an hour later, his sister came over. I was like, hey, where's mom and dad? And he's like, they're not here. But she could hear the moaning. So she pushed her way in and found her parents there. And the kid took off with his copy of Halo in the family car. And like an hour later, he got arrested. And yeah, he ended up getting a life sentence with a availability for parole when he turned 28. So he had to at least do 10 years and then see if he was eligible for parole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then I have a different one where there's an 18-year-old in Taiwan. His name was Chu Wong. And in 2012, Diablo 3 came out.
Okay, tight, yeah.
And I'm sure we have them around here, but in Asia, it's more prominent to have like a game cafe.
Yeah,
we have a video game cafe.
We had a couple around here. I think there's one in South Park Mall, but me and my buddies used to hit those up.
Yeah. Well, he got a private room so he could just binge Diablo 3. He was in there for 40 hours straight.
Oh, shit.
With no breaks at all.
And so he's like peeing and pooping in there?
They must have been, or like had a jar or something. And or maybe he just held it because he wasn't eating.
Yeah, if you don't eat or drink, maybe you don't
have to go
poo or pee.
Yeah, and an attendant finally like went in there because I guess his time was up. I don't know how that works. If you pay at the end, do you prepay?
Yeah.
But they found him slumped over and he was like kind of sleeping. And they're like, "Hey, you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he got up and he took like 2 steps and fell over because he developed a blood clot.
Oh no!
And it dislodged like in his leg because he wasn't moving for 40 hours, and it got lodged in his heart, and he had a heart attack and died.
Oh, God!
I guess that'd be a stroke. It wouldn't be a heart attack. It just clogs an artery.
I think that's a stroke.
Yeah,
because you'd get a stent for it.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, at 18 years old.
Damn.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
There's other crazy ones, but they're not as cool. Not that those were cool, but
they're a little more pathetic or something.
Well, it has a lot to do with like neglect.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Boy, how interesting. What a real big concept.
Yeah.
This is
a lot going on there.
Yeah. But that's okay.
There's a website called gamequitters.com.
Okay.
And if you go there, you can take a survey.
All right.
To either if you're a parent or a gamer to see if your kid or yourself are addicted to video games.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah. Did you want me to ask you the questions? Or
yes.
You just want to cut that and
no,
leave
please.
it as a website?
Please ask me the questions.
Okay. Well, they're very much like the questions you would think they would be. Like, do you think about games even when you're not playing?
No.
Do you feel restless, irritable, moody, angry, anxious, bored, or sad when you try to cut down or stop gaming, or when you're unable to play?
No. What if I feel like that all the time?
Oh, well,
it's not just.
We'll just put a pin in that. Have you ever felt that you should play less, but are unable to cut back on the amount of time that you spend on the game?
No.
Have you lost interest or reduced participation in other recreational activities due to gaming?
No.
All right. Have you ever been deceptive or lied to family, friends, or others about how much you game, or tried to keep your family or friends from knowing how much you game?
I have told my friends that I game more than I actually do, actually.
Like, I was on that for 40 hours.
Yeah, dude, I was beating all the levels.
Yeah, but really, I was on there for 2 hours. Do you use the game to escape from or forget about personal problems or to relieve uncomfortable feelings such as guilt, anxiety, helplessness, or depression?
Oh, that one I do.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
Right. Yeah, but I guess, of course, this is about gaming.
Yeah.
But you could probably apply these to anything.
Yeah.
Like, are you on your phone, or do you lie about being on your phone?
Oh, my phone. If all those were replaced with phone, I might be guilty.
Chocolate,
Yeah.
or...
But actually, I think I'm a depressionaholic.
Depressionaholic?
I have a lot of depression, and I wallow in it a lot.
Yes. Sometimes I don't tell my friends how much I'm depressed. But I get depressed to escape from feeling guilt and anxiety, because I'm like, as long as I'm depressed, I'm not helpless.
Oh, what was the website again?
It was quitgaming.com.
Yeah, people. If you or somebody you love is addicted to video games, or it's hurting your relationship with them, have a conversation. Check out this website, and hopefully they can help.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Check out some other episodes. We talked about the D&D Satanic Panic. That was a good episode.
Yeah.
And for God's sakes, take care of yourselves.
Yeah. So remember, war doesn't determine who is right, but who is left.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Oh, wait.
Oh,
Sorry. I do have one last thing.